Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
First, a word from our sponsor. The Daily Compliance News for October 18, 2022, the Monk charged with fraud edition. We begin with that story from law.com, which reports that the general counsel and for a monastic institute and a man she was living with who called himself an Orthodox Christian monk raked in more than $3.6 million through COVID-19 relief loan scheme, then used the money to buy a house, watches, wine, and other lavish items. The legal counsel, Tracy Stockton, was living with Brian Bushell, and they're charged with conspiracy to commit wire fraud and unlawful monetary transactions. The fact that a monk's living with a woman might give you pause, but apparently not enough for Ms. Stockton. Next up, the U.S. Supreme Court turns down chances to review the False Claims Act standards. According to Reuters, the U.S. Supreme Court declined to hear 3 cases over whether whistleblowers accused of providers of defrauding government must prove details about the alleged fraud claims submitted. The court's decision leaves in place a decision by the 7th Circuit allowing a whistleblower to go forward against a company, and rulings by the 6th and 11th Circuit dismissing whistleblower claims which do not provide said details. So whatever you think of the Supreme Court, they really dropped the ball on this one. Next up, in a sad story about AT&T, they have settled a domestic corruption probe of $23 million. AT&T Illinois has agreed to pay $23 million to resolve a federal probe into its illegal efforts to influence former Illinois House Speaker Mike Madigan, who faces charges for his role in the bribery scheme. Under the agreement, the company admits it arranged to make payments to an associate of Madigan in exchange for his help in pushing through favorable legislation for the company. So, AT&T Illinois is embroiled in a bribery and corruption scheme involving the corrupt Illinois legislature. Kind of figure it all out. And finally, Credit Suisse pays yet another fine as it's reached a $495 million settlement with U.S. prosecutors over a case relating to financial crisis era, that's 2008, mortgage bond, as the lender tries to draw a line under the swath of legal disputes racked up over the past decade. Credit Suisse has consistently been one of the worst offenders in the banks behaving badly category, and this case underlines once again the legal responsibility and now billions in fines and penalties paid out by Credit Suisse. One day it may end, who knows? Or Credit Suisse could do better. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.